All right, welcome back. This is Robin Norgren. Let's see. For empty nester, former teacher or teacher trying to get out of the teaching profession. Here is the series. Here is the finale of that series. All right, so here we go. All right, so we began this series talking about how, I wanted to get out of teaching and all of these sorts of things. We are going to end the series with, you guys, I got the job. I got the job. Okay. So, how did I know that this was the job? Okay. I think I've said over the last few vlogs, and you'll also find on my channel that there are spiritual conversations, there are love poems from God, there are prayers, meditations. So my whole life since I was, my gosh, I want to get it right. I guess I would say probably for 32 years now, off and on, okay, off and on. I was actually raised in the church, but didn't really understand what it meant. Had kind of an awareness of God, so when things would get rough, I would turn like upwards somehow, whether it be some sort of prayer or something. And off and on through the years, of course, I've made mistakes. I've been married a couple times. So this isn't a perfect life that was like, oh, I follow Jesus and now, I haven't had a problem in the world. No, I was getting in my own way in these last couple decades. And, just so many things where you're like, I don't really know what it means for God to love me, to have grace extended to me, that he really wants to bring me into my best self and all of those things, and that means something. And part of my job in the world is to be curious about what that means. Okay. So, all right. So there's also a video about a 1-cent couch. Go watch it. I will put it down in the comments below. It is the greatest story where you're like, no freaking way. All right. So here we go. So I've got it set up for us appropriately now. All right. So here's the thing. I had a couple of job interviews. I did my furious, Indeed, oh my gosh, what kind of job? And what if this one lies to me too? And all this kind of stuff. And it's like, girl, you need to chill. You just need to chill. You need to walk. you need to do some art. You need to, go see a friend. You need to do something. Now, the problem with the go see the friend is, unfortunately, they all live back in Arizona. So it's been very much like, all right, thank goodness, thank God for Marco Polo, because that's how I've kept sane, as well as that, my old friends are still there for me, which I'm so grateful for. But here's where we are. So I also, I go to church. We're trying to find a church where both of us feel connected. And but in the meantime, I have watched Wildlife Church. I've been a part of the Wildlife Church experience, for lack of a better way to say it, for probably, gosh, about 5 years now. And I might even say it's more than that, but I'd have to stop and think about it. My point is, so I still watch them online. Pretty regularly. And so, again, I will link this down below. Again, I'm kind of struggling. There's a couple of jobs that are here, and I was waiting on a job from the library. I don't know if I mentioned that in one of my videos, where I went for a reading specialist. So I was going to work part-time there and then maybe get a part-time job in Whole Foods, and I was just going to call it good. They never called me, guys. There was literally 5 jobs I was qualified for. They never called me. Anyway, gotta let that stuff go. All right, so I go to my interview, and the first interview, like I said, they immediately were saying the things that I was before I even asked. And so I'm like, okay, this is different, right? This is different. And so listening to a sermon, when I listen to their sermons, because it's a little longer than I usually have time to sit, so I usually will do a walk and listen to part, and then I finish it up. Well, for whatever reason, I felt compelled to listen to it from beginning and to end. And, just in just in passing, because it wasn't like how to hear from God. It was nothing like that. When you see the title of this, you're going to be like, what is she talking about? And again, this is what the beauty about talks and sermons of these sorts of things. There's something there specifically for you that maybe no one else hears. You're like, no, actually, that was for me. That was how the 1 cent couch was. I told my sister this story because she watches them as well. And she's like, I didn't even hear that. I'm like, I know. I don't even know why I heard it. I was like in another room. And okay, I'm not going to tell you the story. You go listen to that video. Anyway, so in this talk, in this sermon, because it does feel more like a talk, he was talking about, his name is Kirby Delanero, and he was talking about there, God's trying to have conversation with you all the time. Look at what you're looking at on Netflix. It's like, look at what I'm looking at on Netflix. Okay, so you guys, the show right now that's like the hit that I've kind of been like, I even said to my husband, like, do you want to watch this? He's like, yeah, I'm not interested. I'm like, oh, okay. And it was just like, am I interested in the cheesy little, I don't know. I'm not really, I have to be in the mood for a rom-com. It's called Nobody Wants This, right? Love Kristen Bell, love her. But I was just like, I don't really want to see it, right? And so, but then one day I felt like, let's watch it. And so while I'm like, doing the Indeed, applications, I watched the show and I was like, oh my gosh, this is really, really good. Like I got to the end of it and then I was like, I want to watch it again. And I'm like, and there's a guy that's like, he's a rabbi. I won't spoil it for you, but it's a great story. Anyway, so when Kirby says, what are you watching on Netflix? I'm like, well, this is what I'm watching on Netflix. This is no way. He's like, yeah, you know what? God wants to get your attention, even when you're through the things you're watching on Netflix. And I was like, okay. Now, what's very interesting about that is there is something in that show that aligns with something that happened at the job interview. And I was like, what is going on? And so did the interview, came home. Had I already watched the sermon? I think I might have. And it was like, okay, can I start getting my hopes up about this? Because I think this is the one, right? In the midst of that, a job offer came through and I turned it down. I turned it down. I was like, okay, girl, you're now like 2 weeks out of working, going on 3 weeks. And the way the process goes with the background checks and stuff, it's probably going to be about another week. I'm like, don't be playing around with the money, girl, So I'm like, okay. So anyway, I turned it down, and I was like, oh, how am I going to tell? And I will say that my husband is like super good about, because we've been together for 22 years and he's been in the military for a good majority of it. So I've had to make lots of decisions for our family before. So thankfully he does trust me with those kind of decisions. But I was just like, oh, girl, you better not be, delusional here. But I was just like, don't you worry. You'll get it. If this doesn't work out, you'll just pick up a crappy job. It's going to be okay. It's not that you don't want to work, right? And so I was like, oh no, I'm going to hold on for this. So then I was like waiting for the call. And then they call me and they go, well, we actually want you to come in and like actually do a trial day. And I was like, okay. So of course then you're like, okay, now see, that's why you're little fairy tales. I'm trying to be real with you. I was like, okay, with your fairy tales, you just need to cut it out and go to the next interview that you have. And so they were like, so we could do it like Friday or we could do it Monday. And I was like, and it was weird because I was like, well, like it was a Tuesday. So I'm like, why aren't you saying Wednesday? Because you like called me like Tuesday at like 2:00. I said, can't we just do tomorrow? And she goes, yeah, let's do tomorrow. I'm like, perfect, let's do tomorrow. And I went, and again, like I said, it was, how you're just like talking and it's just like flowing out of your mouth, but it's like everything you're saying is like so in your pores. You're not trying to convince, you're not trying to show off, you're not trying to, I don't even know, like you're not just trying to like put on airs, as they used to say, or make it seem like you're just so competent. I'm just like, I literally am so over that nonsense. This is what I'm bringing to you. Do you want it or don't you want it? So anyway, we went inside, and I'm telling you, I was in that room with those kids, and there's this one channel Uh, it's actually a music reaction channel called Alex and Andy. Shout out to them. I'll link them down in the bio. Because they are amazing and we watch them all the time. And they say lost in the sauce. And so when they were in there, like the director came and kind of tapped me on the shoulder, like, oh, you don't have to stay, you only have to stay for an hour and a half. It's like, oh, I'll just finish up with them. They were doing a center. And it wasn't, you guys, again, it wasn't this like this dog and pony show, like I'm just trying to get the kids to like me. I was like literally like in there, in the environment, just like letting myself just kind of like, I don't even know, like become one with the environment. I know this sounds so woo, but it really was that. And I literally felt like I was lost in the sauce. I didn't know what time it was, and it didn't feel like much time had gone by. And it was like an hour and a half. And I kid you not, I wasn't like running a center. I wasn't talking to any of the kids per se. I wasn't doing anything that would have been like, make sure they know who you are. I was just being who I am. It was like the most mind-blowing thing ever. It was the most out of body, out of this world experience that I have ever had, right? So I leave there and I'm just like, listen, if they do not want me, I'm not gonna go. No, I take that back. So I go into the room and they're asking me some more questions, and then all of a sudden they say, so, do you want the job? And I was like, oh, you're offering me the job. It was just like, and again, like this so unpretentious way. Now, mind you, like I said, and I always kind of like try to like, it's not going to happen the same way for everybody. I really do understand it doesn't happen the same way for everybody. And it's interesting because now I have grown kids. Obviously, I've told you I'm an empty nester. And so it's like, well, guys, if you just do this, this, and this, and this, it's just going to come together. I literally say to them on a regular basis, oh, and I have to get out of my own way because I'm just like every mom, like, let me go try and fix it. You can't though. Like you've been puffing up this idea of following God for way too long now. If you really don't feel like God can come through for them, you need to stop talking to them about it. And especially with one of my children, it has been a long battle with him. Not because I don't want to have a relationship with me. It's because he doesn't know how to have a relationship with himself. And when we're in each other's presence, it's not that I'm saying anything to him, but he knows he's so far away from himself, right? Through lots of different experiences, valid experiences. But again, like, so again, coming back to this idea of like being an empty nester and going, all right, now guess what? You have to kind of come back as an offering to God and go, what do you want from me now? Aside from like following my daughter, who was like super into theater, her videos here if you want to take a look at them on my channel, or supporting a child that has been in the military for a good 10 years. He's now since left the military, and then a child who's completely like just doesn't even connect at all. And how do you stand in the gap for those three experiences and also remind yourself you still have to have your own experience? All right, so you guys, I got the job. The offer letter came through yesterday afternoon. So excited about it. Excited in a way that's different than any other level excitement that I've had at any other job before because of how it came together, right? And all I will say to you is that what can you expect from me now on this channel? Well, I'm going to continue to put art lessons on the channel because I do believe that adults should be doing more art. And as you know from my MO, like the art isn't like going to be long videos. You can pause it, you can, do whatever, you can use whatever you have at home. I do have paid classes. These, of course, on YouTube will be free. The other thing I'm going to start exploring is because I am, empty nester, 50 plus person who's never really like understood herbal medicine. And so my next series is going to be about a day in the life of being a beginner about herbal medicine, because I've been through the gamut of like essential oils and vegan eating and plant-based eating, but this is one component that I've never really explored. And so I want to talk to those that are just like me, that like there's been a ton of books pushed at you. If you try to talk to somebody about it, it's like they've got so much information that they've forgotten how to be a beginner. Guys, we have to remember how to be beginners. We can't teach anything unless you remember how to be a beginner. So hoping that will help you as well. Anyway, I hope that you have enjoyed this series. I have really enjoyed like going through it with you, because it was a going through. My prayer for you is that wherever you find yourself, that you do know that God is there. God is there. God is speaking. He's speaking to you. How can you go about opening yourself up to hearing from him? Thank you so much for stopping by. Like, share, subscribe.